On January 3, 2004, a tragic plane crash shocked the world. Flash Airlines Flight 604, a charter flight from Egypt, plunged into the Red Sea shortly after taking off from Sharm el-Sheikh International Airport. The plane was carrying 148 people, including passengers and crew, most of whom were French tourists returning home after a vacation. What caused a fully functional Boeing 737-300 to crash just minutes after takeoff? Why were no survivors left to tell the tale? And how could such an event unfold over the seemingly tranquil Red Sea? To answer these questions, we must dive deeper into the story of the Flight 604 crash. Flash Airlines was a small Egyptian airline established in 1995, originally named Heliopolis Airlines, before rebranding as part of the Flash Tour Group. Operating out of Egypt, it catered primarily to European tourists with low-cost charter flights. By 2004, the airline had just 2 planes in its fleet, both aging Boeing 737-300 aircraft. Despite its modest size, Flash Airlines quickly gained attention for all the wrong reasons. Concerns about its safety standards emerged early in its operations. A 2002 inspection by Swiss aviation authorities revealed alarming safety violations on one of its planes, a Boeing 737-300 registered as SU-ZCF. The findings included critical flight instruments that were malfunctioning or completely inoperative, along with missing oxygen tanks, including one designated for the captain. These violations were so severe that the aircraft was grounded immediately until the issues were resolved. This inspection was more than a wake-up call. It was a red flag for the entire airline. Switzerland responded by banning Flash Airlines from its airspace, a rare and drastic move that underscored the seriousness of the safety concerns. This action prompted several other European countries to scrutinize the airline's practices, with many following Switzerland's lead and cutting ties. However, not all relationships were severed. Some tour operators, particularly in France, continued to book flights with Flash Airlines, drawn by the airline's low costs. For travelers eager for affordable vacations in Egypt, warnings about the airline's safety often seemed remote or unimportant. Many passengers were unaware that behind the enticing deals lay a history of neglected maintenance and regulatory failures. Unbeknownst to them, these oversight issues would soon culminate in a catastrophic event that would forever tarnish the airline's name. On January 3, 2004, Flash Airlines Flight 604 prepared for its journey from Sharm el-Sheikh, a scenic Egyptian resort city on the Red Sea, to Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. The flight, which included a scheduled stopover in Cairo, was meant to take 135 passengers back home after their holiday celebrations in Egypt. The majority of the passengers were French tourists, including families with young children, couples enjoying their vacations, and solo travelers. Additionally, the flight carried 2 Moroccan passengers, 1 American traveler, and a 13-member Egyptian crew, making it a diverse group of individuals united by a common journey. The aircraft assigned to this flight was a Boeing 737-300, identified by its registration number SU-ZCF. However, this plane had a concerning history. In previous years, it had been grounded in Switzerland due to safety concerns. After undergoing inspections and repairs, the aircraft was deemed airworthy by 2004 and put back into operation. Despite its troubled past, it was entrusted to carry out the task of transporting passengers and crew safely on this fateful day. The cockpit was led by Captain Kader Abdallah, a seasoned 53-year-old aviator with a long and distinguished career. Captain Abdallah had accumulated extensive experience, including years of service in the Egyptian Air Force. Although he had joined Flash Airlines less than a year earlier, his skills and reputation earned him respect as a senior pilot. Supporting him was the co-pilot, 25-year-old Amir Al-Shafi. Despite being significantly younger and less experienced, Al-Shafi was qualified and certified to handle the responsibilities of co-piloting the Boeing 737. Also present in the cockpit was Ashraf Abdelhamid, a first officer in training with dual Egyptian-Canadian citizenship. Hamid was there as an observer, gaining invaluable experience as part of his transition into the world of commercial aviation. The flight carried the hopes and dreams of its passengers and crew, each with their own unique story. Unfortunately, this ordinary flight would soon take a tragic turn, leaving behind questions and heartbreak that would linger for years. In the stillness of early morning, Flight 604 prepared for takeoff from Sharm el-Sheikh International Airport. At precisely 4:42 a.m., the aircraft powered down runway 22R and lifted off into the pre-dawn darkness. Below, the Red Sea lay shrouded in shadows, its tranquil waters hidden by the dimness of the hour. The flight's initial plan was straightforward: climb steadily and execute a left turn over the sea. This turn was a critical maneuver designed to avoid the rugged mountainous terrain to the northwest of the airport. As the plane ascended into the sky, Captain Abdallah took control of the left turn manually, deftly guiding the aircraft through the early stages of its journey. A few moments later, he prepared to switch to autopilot to manage the task. Yet, almost instinctively, he reconsidered. Opting instead to continue manually piloting the plane, he made what seemed like an insignificant decision. Just another routine adjustment in the course of a typical flight. No one could have foreseen how this seemingly trivial choice would lead to a cascading series of events. As the aircraft climbed past 3,000 feet, something unusual began to unfold. Instead of completing the planned leftward turn, the plane unexpectedly stopped turning and began to bank sharply to the right. This deviation from the intended flight path was abrupt and alarming. Captain Abdallah quickly noticed the irregularity and voiced his concern. "See what the aircraft did," he said, his tone laced with confusion and unease. The co-pilot, equally puzzled, acknowledged the abnormal movement. Yet instead of taking immediate corrective action, both pilots hesitated, trying to make sense of what was happening. Their momentary delay in responding allowed the rightward bank to intensify, setting the stage for a precarious situation. What began as a minor anomaly was rapidly escalating into a critical problem, leaving little margin for error. The early moments of Flight 604's journey, initially so routine, were now veering into uncharted and dangerous territory, with the crew struggling to regain control of the unfolding situation. The flight took a tragic turn as the aircraft's right bank, or the tilt of the plane, became steeper. This caused the plane to lose lift, a critical element that keeps it airborne. As the plane continued to climb, the nose tilted upward, reaching an angle that put the aircraft at risk of stalling. A stall happens when the wings can no longer provide enough lift to keep the plane in the air, a dangerous situation for any flight. In the cockpit, the crew seemed confused and disoriented. The captain, realizing the situation was becoming dire, tried to re-engage the autopilot system, hoping it would help stabilize the aircraft. However, the autopilot did not respond. At this point, the co-pilot, perhaps unsure if he had the authority or confidence to take control, did not act. This left the aircraft to continue its erratic flight path. As the plane continued to climb, it reached an altitude of about 5,000 feet. At this height, it stalled and started to fall rapidly. The sharp descent caused the aircraft to pick up speed quickly, reaching over 400 knots, a dangerously high speed for a falling plane. In the cockpit, alarm systems blared, warning the crew of the imminent danger. However, despite the warnings, there was little they could do at this stage. With the ground rushing up, Abdelhamid, the third pilot, suggested reducing the engine power in a last-ditch attempt to stabilize the plane. But it was too late. The plane was already descending too rapidly and at too high a speed to recover. At 4:45 a.m., just 3 minutes after takeoff, Flight 604 crashed into the Red Sea. The impact was devastating. The plane hit the water at an incredible speed of 470 miles per hour, causing it to disintegrate on impact. Tragically, there was no chance of survival for the 148 people on board. This disaster marked the end of their journey, a heartbreaking loss for everyone involved. After the tragic disaster, recovery teams sprang into action to search for answers. The task was far from easy. The wreckage had fallen into the deep, dark waters of the Red Sea, making it incredibly difficult for divers and teams to recover pieces of the plane and the remains of those aboard. Despite these challenges, the recovery efforts continued relentlessly, with teams working day and night to gather evidence and understand what had happened. Investigators from Egypt, France, and the United States came together to try and uncover the cause of the crash. The investigation soon became a complex and contentious matter. Egypt's authorities suggested that a mechanical failure was to blame. They pointed to a problem in the plane's aileron control system, which controls the aircraft's roll and helps it stay level. They believed this failure caused the plane to suddenly turn to the right without any input from the pilots. Egypt dismissed the idea that pilot error played a role, claiming that the crew had been dealing with serious technical issues beyond their control. On the other hand, French investigators offered a different perspective. They believed that the disaster may have been caused by something known as spatial disorientation, specifically a condition called vertigo. This happens when a pilot loses track of the plane's position in the sky, often due to a lack of visual references, especially in conditions like darkness or bad weather. In this case, they suggested that Captain Abdallah, flying over the Red Sea in the dead of night, might have become disoriented. He may have thought the plane was flying level, but in reality, it was banking to the right, causing the plane to veer off course. The French investigation also pointed to another issue: the airline's lack of proper crew training. They believed that the airline's crew resource management (CRM) training was insufficient. CRM training teaches pilots and crews how to communicate and work together effectively, especially in high-pressure situations. According to the French report, this gap in training may have led to the co-pilot's hesitation to challenge the captain's actions or take control of the situation when it was clear something was going wrong. These differing conclusions added layers of complexity to the investigation. What had seemed like a straightforward search for answers was now filled with disagreements and differing theories. Each side of the investigation focused on its explanation, leaving the true cause of the disaster unclear for some time. But the tireless efforts of the recovery teams and investigators continued, inching closer to understanding what had caused this tragic event. The mystery surrounding Flight 604 centers on whether mechanical failure or human error played a bigger role in the tragedy. The plane made an unexpected right turn, which could have been caused by a malfunction in the ailerons, the control surfaces that help the plane turn. However, another possibility is that the captain, disoriented, might have unknowingly caused the plane to turn himself. There are also questions about whether the co-pilot should have acted sooner to intervene and prevent the situation from escalating. Unfortunately, there are no clear answers to these questions, as different parties have proposed different theories. One thing is certain: the crash revealed serious problems within Flash Airlines operations. One of the major issues was the airline's failure to properly train its cockpit crew in crew resource management, CRM. CRM training is essential for ensuring that pilots and co-pilots can effectively work together, especially in high-pressure situations. Without this training, the flight crew was not prepared to handle an emergency, which made the situation worse. On top of this, the plane was flying at night over the ocean. a particularly difficult and dangerous environment that added to the risks. The combination of a lack of preparation and the challenging conditions created a perfect storm that led to the crash. The impact of Flight 604's crash was felt far and wide. For the families of those who lost their lives, the tragedy was devastating. Entire families were lost in the crash, leaving behind an overwhelming amount of grief and many unanswered questions. Memorial services were held in both France and Egypt, paying tribute to the victims and honoring their memories. The crash also had major consequences for the aviation industry. It served as a stark reminder of the importance of strict safety standards and proper pilot training. In response to the disaster, the European Union created a blacklist of airlines that were banned from operating within its borders due to safety concerns. Flash Airlines itself was unable to recover from the damage done to its reputation and ceased operations just 2 months after the crash. The disaster ultimately highlighted the need for better safety protocols, more rigorous training, and more oversight in the airline industry to prevent such tragedies from happening again. With the advancements in technology and training, no doubt that flying has become safer than ever. Yet the lessons of Flight 604 continue to resonate, reminding us that vigilance, preparation, and collaboration are essential in the high-stakes world of aviation.